And to my fellow citizens, America is back.
Today on the Morning Edition, promising to lower prices, bring peace around the world and safety to the U.S. border. We've got a complete wrap-up of President Trump's historic address. Plus,
people have lost their livelihoods and our parks are in danger.
Federal cuts spark outrage. Why former park employees say they were unfairly fired. How protesters are taking a stand, they say, to save our national parks.
And a bold break-in for the second time, and it was all caught on camera. What measures the Anchorage Animal Care and Control team is doing to make sure their pets and staff stay safe as the Morning Edition starts now. Good morning, everyone. On this Wednesday, we do begin with breaking news overnight. Rescue teams are in a race against time this morning as they're searching for multiple missing heli-skiers that were caught in an avalanche.
It happened near Girdwood yesterday afternoon. What we know right now is Alaska State Troopers say multiple people were heli-skiing near the West Fork of 20 Mile River when the avalanche happened. That's about an hour away from Anchorage and about 20 minutes from Girdwood. We're told the company they were skiing with tried to reach them, but they weren't able to because of the snow depth. Alaska State Troopers will attempt to reach the site again this morning.
The Chugach National Forest Avalanche Information Center lists the avalanche danger as considerable right now. And for more information on what that means, we do turn to meteorologist Aaron Morrison. And Aaron, we know it can go from a level 1, which is low, to level 5, which is considered extreme. So in yesterday's case of conditions, considerable is a level 3.
And yeah, we're seeing that considerable danger in the mid and upper level elevations, with some of the biggest concerns being that wind slab and that wind loading that we've been dealing with those easterly winds and that higher elevations. In addition to that, we were talking yesterday that it will be easy to trigger an avalanche due in large part to that layer of surface hoar that is buried about 2 feet deep below that snow, that fresh snow that has been falling in some of those higher elevations. So when we're talking about these hoar crystals, these surface hoar crystals, they're very fragile. They're flat and feathery, and they do develop on the snow surface through those overnight hours when we have those clearer skies and calm winds. That allows that surface hoarfrost to develop. So think of it like your windshield through the overnight hours up on clear nights, where you tend to see those frost formations quickly form. That's what we're seeing there on that snow surface. As it becomes buried, they remain weak, and that's due to the weak bonds that it has within the surface hoar itself, as well as that snowpack. And as it continues to be buried within that snowfall, we are also seeing the potential for some of those winds. Now, that surface hoar easily destroyed by wind, so some of those wind-shielded locations, this is where you're going to see more of a concern when it comes to that weak layer being buried. So we're certainly going to continue to monitor that avalanche situation. In addition to that, temperatures have been fairly warm for quite some time, so the avalanche forecast has not been in our favor for quite some time. While the surface temperatures are sitting in the mid to upper 30s, we've actually seen some of those mid to higher elevations of the mountains warming into the 40s with gusts up to 50 miles per hour. We've got the return to some active weather. We're also seeing with the return to this active weather, those winds steadily increasing. Notice that south to easterly flow. That is leading to those gusty winds in the higher elevations, with active wind loading being expected to continue to create new wind slabs. So we'll certainly watch for that through the remainder of today, really through the rest of this week, as temperatures continue to remain fairly warm, and we are going to continue to hold on to this active weather. Temperatures warming into the mid to upper 30s, even some 40s across South Central. We've got rain and snow in the forecast for your Wednesday into Thursday. I'll have more on that and to time it out for you coming up in my full forecast.
And now I fully authorize the most talented team ever assembled to go and get it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill.
From oil drilling to Alaska pipeline promises, President Donald Trump gave the longest presidential speech to a joint session of Congress ever, also touting accomplishments on key issues like immigration, national security, and the economy. The Alaska mentions came during the divisive speech, drawing cheers and applause from Republicans, cheers and signs of protest from Democrats.
We have reaction from Senator Sullivan and Governor Dunleavy, but first, Alice Barr has what's new this morning.
Standing in the U.S. Capitol, where he was sworn into office just 6 weeks ago, President Trump touting his administration's rapid pace of change.
And we are just getting started.
defending his new tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China.
Tariffs are about making America rich again.
Despite stock market drops amid concerns about a trade war further hiking prices.
There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much.
He praised Elon Musk.
He's working very hard.
And the Department of Government Efficiency for slashing the size of government, even as Democratic lawmakers invited fired federal workers as their guests for the speech. In the Democratic response, Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin cast cuts to government services as a means to deliver tax breaks to the wealthy.
Grocery and home prices are going up, not down. And he hasn't laid out a credible plan to deal with either of those.
Any further disruption?
And Texas Democrat Al Green was escorted out after vocally objecting to President Trump calling his election victory a mandate. On immigration, the president asking Congress for more funding for mass deportations and border security, while needling Democrats who wanted new legislation to secure the border.
It turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
Looking to Russia's war on Ukraine, he announced Ukrainian President Zelensky had reached out following their Oval Office clash that led to a freeze on military aid to Ukraine.
I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine.
In a sometimes combative speech, President Trump promising to keep shaking up the government. President Trump will not tour the country following his address, as presidents often do, though he did return to some key campaign trail promises, again calling for no tax on tips or overtime and no tax on Social Security benefits for seniors. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
During his speech, the president called out Alaska by name, saying his administration's working to move forward on a long talk about a natural gas pipeline project.
My administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each. There's never been anything like that one. It will be truly spectacular. It's all set to go. The permitting is gotten.
Right after the speech, Alaska's news source John Thompson spoke with both Senator Dan Sullivan and Governor Mike Dunleavy, who say they're excited about the prospect.
It was really, really exciting to be in there when he talked about this project, which, I've been working on this for a long time. It's, not going to happen overnight, but the fact that we have the president and his entire cabinet fully putting their shoulder into this was quite remarkable. I was super excited about it. Like I said, Governor Dunleavy and I pitched the Trump administration on having the president mention this in his State of the Union. As you probably know, John, everybody in the country, everybody in D.C. wants to get their big issue highlighted in the State of the Union, and the president chose, in terms of highlighting something really important for American energy and American infrastructure, our project.
Our neighbors in East Asia, we get this pipeline done here, hopefully the next couple of years, are going to be beneficiaries of decades and decades and decades of gas, but also gas that comes from America in an increasingly more dangerous world. So I was very happy with the president's shout-out for Alaska.
In his speech, President Trump suggested he'll also take historic action this week on critical minerals and rare earths. The governor says he believes Alaska will also be positively impacted. And you may remember President Trump first talked about the joint liquefied natural gas venture when Japan's prime minister visited the White House last month. At that time, longtime oil and gas analyst Larry Persily said the LNG line idea has been floated since the discovery of Prudhoe Bay, but cautioned the cost and time it would take to complete the project has resulted in it failing several times. He said that must be considered as this project moves forward.
To further combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but we'll be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars.
As President Trump mentioned federal funding cuts, including highlighting Elon Musk's work, calling him the head of Doge. Fired federal workers were not specifically mentioned, but one fired Denali National Park worker is talking about his experience in front of dozens of protesters Saturday. Mitch Flanagan, a former assistant kennels manager, stood before the crowd, sharing how he and 3 other probationary workers were suddenly fired on February 14th. The protest was one of hundreds across the country, but in Denali, demonstrators started at the park's iconic sign and marched to where the park road meets the park's highway. Supporters say their message goes beyond just those fired. They're fighting to protect the park service itself.
Definitely felt really good as far as just all of the support that we have received and everything. And then as far as the traffic on the road, I feel like the vast majority of people seemed like they were honking and like in support of it.
People have lost their livelihoods and our parks are in danger. So keeping that in mind, we are trying to keep our spirits up, but also share the message that, we really need to protect our parks.
Supporters of the DOGE cuts, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, argued Wednesday savings from what he called fraud, waste, and permanent abuse in the budgeting process. Quote, the better off the country will be.
Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries.
The president also talking about his tariffs on imports into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico, while a 20% levy against goods coming from China also goes into effect. A University of Alaska Anchorage professor says Alaska potentially will face harder impacts than the rest of the country. Economists have expressed concerns the trade war will lead to higher prices for Americans all across the country, as all three countries have now announced retaliation plans. UAA's economic department chair explaining how Alaska, in his view, is especially vulnerable because it's already hard to have a variety of products imported to the state.
It's important to keep in mind that Alaska operates as a part of the entire nation's economy, right? So we import from Canada and Mexico a fair amount of our foodstuffs, vegetables, fruits, and other things that are difficult to substitute. But at a state level, we also import a lot of materials that we use to do things.
As for exporting, the UAA Economics Department chair explained many of the state's commodities like seafood are relatively easy for other countries to diversify away from. For more information on last night's congressional address, our in-depth coverage continues now on our website. We should mention we are waiting to hear back from both Senator Murkowski and Representative Begich. And right now we're working on an in-depth Alaska podcast with Senator Sullivan from the possibility of an LNG pipeline in Alaska to renaming Denali to Mount McKinley. Look for that later today.
After the break, measles concerns. A deadly outbreak in Texas has Alaska health officials on high alert.
Why experts say it could spread faster than COVID and what you need to know to stay safe.
Active weather once again with us across South Central, where we're going to see the potential for rain transitioning to snow. I'll time that out for you. But first, the sunrise coming in at 7:46 in Anchorage, 7:43 in Fairbanks. I'll have your full forecast coming up next.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back here on your Wednesday. Hope your day is off to a great start.
Yeah, let's get a check of the temperatures with meteorologist Aaron Morrison.
Well, still holding on to those warm conditions across South Central, really the state as a whole seeing that warm weather. We've got the teens as you head through the interior out towards McGrath, 30 degrees this morning, 33 here in Anchorage. You can see some cooler conditions expected as you head out towards the slope, the northwest Arctic borough. That's where we are seeing those temperatures hovering just a few degrees above a zero. But as far as the overall trend, we continue to hold on to that warm weather. We are seeing the return to rain and snow for parts of the state. In fact, here in South Central, we are going to see that gradual transition to some possible snow showers overnight on into our Thursday. Out towards Norton Sound, southern parts of the Seward Peninsula, we're also seeing some light snow. We've got some blizzard conditions as you head out towards Gamble, St. Lawrence, the Bering Strait coastline. As this area of low pressure continues to build into southwest Alaska, we are going to see some increasing winds. So be prepared for parts of the Kuskokwim Delta as well as Bristol Bay to see that potential for some areas of localized areas of some blowing snow where those winds will be expected to increase upwards of about 30 plus miles per hour. There's that increased moisture back across South Central. Yesterday, we were on the drier side, even though cloud coverage did remain with us, and we struggled to see some breaks, some of that peaks of sunshine. Today, we should see some early morning peaks of sunshine, but the overall forecast favors those overcast conditions will remain rain with us. We've got widespread rain out towards coastal regions, Prince William Sound. This is where we're easily going to see 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. And then what we're going to be watching through the day. Now, we've got several things in play. We've got some gusty conditions to be expected to develop later this afternoon into the evening hours. Those winds will be out of the east-southeast at times, so we'll largely stay on the dry side for western parts of the Kenai through the Anchorage Bowl and southern parts of the valley. Now, as we welcome in the evening hours, this is where we'll begin to tap into that better potential for some areas of rain and wintry mix for inland locations. And then as that temperatures continue to drop overnight into tomorrow morning, we'll see that possible transition to some snow for inland areas of South Central. Doesn't mean we're going to see much in the way of accumulation. In fact, we may just see some very light accumulation at that due to the nature that we've been sitting up under when it comes to our weather pattern for the past several months. Don't be surprised if most locations do manage to stay all rain through the overnight hours. But keep in mind, there is that potential that we'll see some snow as we do have some cold air aloft, and we do have that potential with those overnight lows dropping near freezing to lead to that snow accumulation. So that will stay with us into our Thursday. It tapers off, and then we'll be dry for the better part of the latter half of the week outside of coastal regions, and we should see the return to some peaks of sunshine in the forecast. So heavy snowfall accumulation looks likely in some of those mid to high elevations of the mountains through the Kenai as well as the Chugach Mountains. So we'll be watching for that through Turnagain Pass as well. We'll see the potential for some accumulation into the valley, down through the Anchorage Bowl, western parts of the Kenai. This is where we're not going to see much in the way of snow accumulation. Just expected very light activity, and then you can see just north of Palmer out towards Hatcher Pass. We could see the potential for 6+ inches of snow accumulation. So we'll be watching for that today and into tomorrow. Temperatures still warm, 30s and 40s expected across South Central. Those winds will increase throughout the day. Nothing significant, but we will see those winds of about 20 to 40 miles per hour later this afternoon, overnight into your Thursday. So be prepared for rain to transition to snow later this evening across a large portion of South Central. Inland areas will stay on the dry side for a good portion of the day. That AM snow stays with us into your Thursday. Again, light accumulation at that. However, if you're heading through the pass, that's where we will see a decent shot for some of that better chance for that accumulation. And remember to set those clocks forward this weekend.
Yeah, good reminder. Thanks, Aaron.
Amidst an outbreak of measles in West Texas, Alaska public health officials are expressing concerns about the illness, as one Fairbanks nurse described it as being one plane away.
Adrian Peterson has more on how the virus behaves and why vaccinations is the only defense against it in this morning's health report.
Over 140 infections and 1 death from a measles outbreak in Texas has Alaska public health officials concerned. Nurses at Fairbanks Public Health Center say the high rate of transmission and consequences of the illness are their primary worries.
Measles is very contagious. It's far more contagious than COVID.
While common symptoms include a rash, fever, coughing, pink eye, and flu-like symptoms, other complications can arise.
About 1 in 20 children who get infected with the measles get pneumonia as a complication, and that's often why children are hospitalized.
Other complications can include brain swelling, brain damage, deafness, and death. Vaccination can prevent serious illness from measles, but according to Worley, there is no specific treatment. As of 2024, 79% of Alaska children younger than 4 had received their first dose of the vaccine, and 64% of kids between 4 and 6 had received their second dose. Amidst the measles outbreak, however, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has said they not only protect children, but contribute to community immunity. This idea is also supported by Worley.
One thing about the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine is it's been around for so long. It's not new. It hasn't changed for many, many, many years. There's research that shows that it's safe.
Worley also says residents should speak with their doctor if they are not vaccinated yet and to stay informed about illness in their community. Adrian Peterson, Alaska's news source.
The case count in West Texas is now up to 159, including 22 hospitalizations, as well as a child who died from measles complications last week.
This is more parents than ever are now choosing to exempt their children from school-mandated vaccines.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.